cover ways of reporting research. 1983, reporting research is very important for scientists. Research is not complete until the results have been published. Therefore, writing a paper is an essential part of the research process. Therefore, an accurate, understandable paper is just as important as the research itself. When writing a thesis or dissertation, check the basic writing guidelines. You should collect all the documents that outline university, graduate school, and departmental policy for theses and dissertations. Then actually read these documents, as someone at some level will eventually check to see whether you have followed them. Review model theses and dissertations of past graduate students whose work is well regarded by your university. Allow extra time for procedural difficulties. That is, allow twice as much as you think you will need. We will cover the traditional format for thesis and dissertation, as compared to journal format. Generally, the traditional format is the chapter format. Chapter 1 Introduction. Chapter 2 Literature Review. Chapter 3 Method. Chapter 4 Results. Chapter 5 Discussion. Conventional theses and dissertations typically contain 4 or 5 chapters. Traditionally, the chapters are intended to reflect the scientific method for solving problems, developing the problem and formulating the hypotheses, gathering the data, and analyzing and interpreting the results. The chapter format is steeped in tradition. The discipline required to accomplish the steps is usually viewed as an educationally beneficial experience. It reinforces the scientific method approach. Moreover, for the master's students, the thesis is normally the first research effort, and there may be merit in formally addressing such steps as operational definitions, assumptions, delimiting the study, stating the significance of the study. Well, we will discuss about the limitations of traditional format. The serious limitation of the chapter style is publishing the manuscript in a research journal. Considerable rewriting is usually required to publish a thesis or dissertation because journal formats differ from those of the thesis or dissertation. We know that much information is required that is not suitable for inclusion in a published article. Much revision is needed for publication. The student usually will have to spend lots of time to rewrite and revise the thesis to publish it. The traditional format is considered archaic by the authors of your text. Format is a better model for theses and dissertation. There are 3 major parts: preliminary materials, body of thesis or dissertations, and appendix. In this format, body of paper is suitable for publication. Extra materials are included in appendixes. This format is strongly preferred format by the authors of your text. Next we will go through the 3 major parts of the journal format. Preliminary materials include such items as title page, acknowledgements, abstract, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures. Body of thesis or dissertations is a complete manuscript prepared in journal form. Included are the standard parts of a research report, such as introduction, method, results, discussion, references. Appendix is extra stuff that is found in traditional approach. The appendixes often include a more thorough literature review, additional detail about method, and additional results not placed in the body of the thesis or dissertation. Extended literature review. Extended methods. Additional results. Other additional materials. One-page vita. the helpful hints for successful journal writing. You might locate this book titled How to Write and Publish a Scientific Paper written by Day in 1998. This book is short, informative, readable, and funny. First, you will need to know the rules and follow them. Get the guidelines. Poor writing and failure to follow guidelines can result in rejection of your work. Give an example here. So, I would like to give you some brief information regarding the publication process based on my personal experience. First, you should select an appropriate journal, carefully read its guidelines. Guidelines for submission are found in each journal. Be sure to adhere to them. Also, select a recent issue as the guidelines may have changed from older issues. The guidelines usually explain the journal's publication style. Submit to editor or online manuscript center. Send out for review. Wait for a decision. Hope for the opportunity to revise. Whether you are writing for a journal, using the chapter or journal format for preparing a thesis or dissertation, or are readying a conference paper, you need to include an abstract. Writing abstracts serve different purposes. Thesis or dissertation. Published articles. Submission to a conference. Length and content depends on purpose. In other words, abstracts for each purpose require slightly different orientations, but nearly all have constraints on length and form. Tracts for thesis or dissertation probably has several specific constraints on length, form, style, and location. First, consult university guidelines or graduate school regulations, then follow these carefully. Brief description of research project. 350 words. Single-spaced. Cataloging abstracts with heading. The abstracts for published papers are much shorter than those for the dissertation, usually between 100 to 150 words. The important consideration is to get to the point. The purpose of the abstract is to provide enough information to the reader so he can decide if it is important to their area of study. Important parts of the abstract are listed below. What was the problem? Who were the participants? How did you carry out the research? What did you find? Conference abstracts are slightly different. Usually you are allowed a little more space because the reviewers must be convinced to accept your paper for presentation. In other words, the purpose is to convince reviewers to accept paper for presentation. Follow the guidelines. Write a short introduction to set up the problem statement. State the problem. Describe the methodology briefly, including participants, instrumentation, procedures, and design and analysis. Summarize the results. Results are usually most important part. Explain why the results are important. Check the rules has not been published or presented elsewhere.